Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, thank you for tuning in, and to my returning subscribers, thank you for always coming back to my channel to watch my videos. In today's video, I'll be showing you how I made this V-neck collar blouse. If this is something you would like to know more about, please keep on watching and let's get started. If you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please hit the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so you get notified anytime I upload a new video. This blouse has a joining on the under bust, and there's a bit of gathers at the shoulder area and at the bust area. So it has a bit of gathers at the shoulder area and at the bust area. So that is just the details on the blouse. And the joining at the under bust applies to the front alone. Now let's jump right into the cutting and the sewing of this blouse. I have this printed crepe fabric, and it is a leftover fabric from a dress I made a while ago. If you have been watching my videos, you will remember this fabric, and I'll pair it with this pink satin fabric. If you have about 1 yard or 1.5 yards, it is enough for this style. I am starting with the front pattern. I have the shoulder line, the chest line, the bust line, the under bust line, the waist line, and the full length of the top. Shoulder to the chest line is 8.5 inches, to the bust line is 10.5 inches, to the under bust is at 14 inches, to the waistline is 18 inches, and to the full length of the top is at 20 inches. On the shoulder line, I'll go in with the shoulder measurements divided by 2 plus 0.5 inch for seam allowance. I'll mark it on the shoulder line and also on the chest line, and I'll connect with a straight line. Next, I'll mark the neckline width and the neckline depth. I'll use a neck width of 3.5 inches and a neck depth of 3 inches, and I'll connect with a curve. Next, I'll come down by 1.5 inches for the shoulder slant, and I'll connect it with a straight line into the neck width. The next thing I'll do is to go to the chest line and mark the bust measurement divided by 4. And from the chest line, I'll go up by 3 inches, and at the 3 inches mark, I'll come in by 0.75. I'll connect those 3 points together to form the armhole. On the waistline, I'll go in with the waist measurements divided by 4, and I'll add 1.5 inches for that allowance. At the full length of the top, I'll go in with the hip measurements divided by 4, and I'll mark it there. I am connecting all those points together with my curved ruler. The next step is to go in with the bust span measurements divided by 2. I'll mark it on the bust line, the waist line, and at the full length line, and I'll connect with a straight line. I added 1.5 inches for that allowance on the waistline. So now on the waistline, I'll go out by 0.75 on both sides of the dart leg, and I'll connect with a straight line to the bust point. And at the full length line, I'll come out by 0.5 on both sides of the dart leg, and I'll connect it to the waistline. The next step is to mark the bust dart. On the bust line, I'll come down by 2 inches, that is for the bust dart, and I'll connect it with a straight line to the bust point. The difference between the front and the back half length is 2 inches, and that is what I took in as the bust dart. I want my V neckline to stop on the under bust line, so from the neck width, I'll connect with a straight line to meet the under bust line. Now, I will attach another piece of paper to the center front for the button placket. I'm just adding another piece of paper to the center front, and I'll extend the lines I have on the under bust line, the waistline, and the full length line to this new paper I placed. The next thing is to mark the width of the placket. I'm using 1.5 inches for the button placket, so I'll mark 1.5 inches all the way down, and I will connect with a straight line. Remember that this top has a joining from the under bust, so I'll cut through from the under bust now to separate the patterns. To close my dart on this part of the pattern, I will just extend the lines a bit like 0.25 and cut it out so that we can have a straight part on that side. So now I'll use a masking tape to hold it down. I'll label my pattern and put an arrow pointing to the top, and I'll write the center front and the side front so that I can easily identify the pattern. I'll be making use of a shoulder dart for this blouse. I'll divide the shoulder into two and get the midpoint, and from the midpoint I'll connect with a straight line to the bust point. I'll cut out the rest of the patterns, close my bust dart, and that will be all for the front pattern. Like I always say, label your pattern so that you don't get confused. Labeling helps to easily identify your pattern. For the back pattern, I have the shoulder line, the chest line, the underbust line, the waist line, and the full length of the top. Shoulder to the chest line is 8.5 inches, to the underbust is 14, to the waistline is 16, and to the full length is at 18 inches. I tightened my center back with 0.75. Remember, there won't be any zip on the back. I'll go in with the shoulder measurements divided by 2 plus 0.75 inch for seam allowance. I'll mark it on the shoulder line and the chest line, and I'll connect with a straight line. Next, I'll go in with a neck width of 3.5 inches and a neck depth of 1.5 inches, and I'll connect with a curve. I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slant, and I'll connect with a straight line into the neck width. On the chest line, I'll go in with the bust measurements divided by 4, and I'll make a mark there. I'll divide what I have left from the shoulder slant into 2 and get the midpoint. At the midpoint, I'll go in by 0.5. I'll connect those 3 points together to form the armhole. On the waistline, I'll go in with the waist measurements divided by 4, and I'll add 1 inch allowance for that. And on the hip line, I'll mark and at the full length line, I'll use the hip measurements divided by 4 and make a mark, and I'll connect all those points together. The next step is to go in with the bust span measurements divided by 2. From the chest line, I'll come down by 1 inch, that is where I'll put the mark. And on the waistline, I'll mark it also, and at the full length, I'll also mark it, and I'll connect with a straight line. I added 1 inch allowance for that to the waist measurement, and so I'll take in ½ inch on both sides of the dart leg, and I'll connect with a straight line to the top. And at the bottom, just like I did with the front pattern, I'll come out by 0.5 on both sides, and I'll just take it all the way down. I'll also be using the shoulder darts for the back, so I'll just divide the shoulder into 2 and get the midpoint. I'll connect the center of the shoulder to the dart line like so. That is all on the back pattern. I'll cut it out now. These are my front patterns, and I am about to transfer to fabric. I have pinned down my pattern on this fabric, and the fabric is folded into 2. The space I have in between at the top there is about 4¼ inches, and at the bottom part I have about 3.5 inches there. So I'm adding ½ inch all around the pattern. and at the side joining I'll add 1.5 inches. So at the bottom I added ½ inch, and at the top I will also add ½ inch while cutting. So the way I spread my pattern will have enough to pleats at the shoulder area and also at the bottom. For the remaining part of the front, I have also transferred to fabric, and this is what we have. I am taking out the pattern from the fabric now, and the first thing I'll go ahead and do is to make a gather stitch at the bottom of the fabric there. I'll just run a gather stitch there to make a bit of gathers. For the back patterns, this is what we have, and I've added all the necessary allowance to the top, bottom and to the side. Don't forget, for the side joining I added 1.5 inches for both the front and the back. So the next thing is to pin it the way I am going to stitch it. So pin one side of the center back to the side piece, pin it together, right side facing each other, and go ahead and stitch. I'll do the same thing to the other side. Pin the other center back to the side back, right side facing each other, and just go ahead and stitch with ½ inch. And after pinning both, I will join them together on the center and also pin it together, and I'll go ahead and run a stitch on it. I'll use ½ inch allowance to stitch all the pieces together. After stitching, I'll use my overlocker to finish it up, and I'll bring it back and show you. I am done stitching here, and this is what we have. I went ahead to press it properly. So after stitching, please always press your seam. It makes your work very neat. This is the front piece. I asked you to put a gather stitch earlier. I have put my stitch and I have gathered a bit of the fabric to the center of the top. Now I'll go ahead and pleat the shoulder. By the time I am done pleating, it should be equal to the back shoulder, because I'll go ahead and join the shoulders together. So just make little pleats that will be equal to the back shoulder, because you are joining both together so that everything matches up. I'll do the same thing to the other piece, and I'll go ahead and join the shoulders together. I am done joining the shoulder of both the front and the back together here, and this is what we have. So the next step is to measure around the neckline from the front all the way to the other side of the front. From the front to the back and all the way to the other side. Measure what you have and take note of the measurements you got. So whatever I have here is what I'll use to cut out the collar that will be attached to the top. So I have cut out my collar here, and the width I have here on fold is 2 inches, and I added interfacing to this fabric. By the time I'm done stitching with ½ inch, I'll be left with 1.5 inches for the collar. Notch the center of the collar and match it to the center back of this top. Secure the center of the collar to the center back and pin it together, right side facing each other, and just pin the rest of the collar to the fabric till you get to the end. After pinning, I will take it to the sewing machine and go ahead and stitch with ½ inch, and I will bring it back and show you. After stitching, I went ahead to overlock it and I pressed it properly, and this is what we have. So the next thing is to attach the lower part of the front pieces to the upper part. I'll set this aside now so that we can work on the lower parts. So I cut out lining for this lower part, and I added interfacing to the parts where we'll have the button allowance there. I added interfacing to the parts where we have the button allowance. So go ahead and do the same thing to yours. Cut out your lining I'll place one piece of the lining on the right side of the fabric, and I'll go ahead and close the center front. I'll go ahead and stitch the center front. I'll do the same thing to the other piece of the front. I'll place the lining on the right side, and I'll go ahead and stitch the center front. After stitching the center front, I decided to close the down part also. Now I'll attach this to the upper part of this top. Place it together like so and secure it down with a pin, and I'll go over to the sewing machine and stitch with 1/2 inch allowance. I'll do the same thing on the other side, and I'll bring it back when I'm done. This is after stitching, and this is what we have. You can see that I finished it up with the overlocker. And for the back of this top, I went ahead to fold it with 1/2 inch. Now the next step is to join the sides together. So whatever allowance you left on the side, go ahead and use it to join the sides together. After joining the sides together, this is what I have. I have pressed it after joining, and the next step is for me to attach the sleeves to this top. I'll set this aside now and bring in my basic sleeve. This is a basic long sleeve pattern. If you don't know how to draft a basic sleeve, I'll put the link of the video I made in the description box so that you can watch how to draft a basic sleeve pattern. This sleeve is a long sleeve pattern, and the length I have here is about 23.5 inches. The sleeve we are trying to achieve is a bell sleeve, and we are going to make use of the slash and spread method. So I'll draw slash lines on this pattern now and separate the pieces. After separating, I'll label the pieces 1, 2, and 3. My fabric is folded into 4 so that I can cut the 2 sleeves at once. I'll pin each of the patterns on the fabric, and the method of spreading depends on the amount of fabric you have. If you have a lot of fabric, you can spread as much as you want, but because I'm working with a limited fabric, I can only spread as much as the fabric that I have. But from the thumbnail, you can see that the sleeve is a bell sleeve and it is a very full one. So if you have enough fabric, you can spread as much as you want. The next step is to cut it out. I'll add 1/2 inch to the bottom, side, and at the top while cutting. This is what we have now for the 2 sleeves, and the next thing for me to do is to fold in the down part for the elastic casing. I'll fold once after overlocking, and I'll insert my elastic into the casing. This is what I have on the sleeves now after I have inserted my elastic, and the next step is to go ahead and join the side. After joining the side, I went ahead to add a bit of gathers to the top of the sleeve. I have done the same thing to the other sleeve, and the next step is to attach it to the top. Don't forget to add your buttonhole and your buttons, and that will be all on this blouse. Thank you guys for watching. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button, leave a comment, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to my channel. Please turn on your notification bell so you'll get notified anytime I upload a new video. Follow me on Instagram at Stitchedbyesthy. You can leave a video suggestion in my DM of the kind of video you love to see on my channel. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.